Solving simultaneous linear equations by substitution method. Now in this part of the video today, we are going to look at how can we solve simultaneous equations using the substitution method. So for example, let's look at example 1 over here. We have this following equation number 1 and equation number 2. To use the substitution method, we will need to make something a subject from either one of the equations and substitute it into the second equation in order to solve for a value, right? So how do we know which equations to choose? So for example, for this question over here, we have 3x plus 2y equals to 1. Okay, if we were to make either x the subject or y the subject, we'll probably need to divide by 3 and divide by 2, then we may end up with fractions, right? But if you consider looking at equation 2, this coefficient for x is just the number 1 and the coefficient of y is just -1. This is relatively simpler because if we were to make x the subject, we do not need to have any fractions involved. And I can choose both to make x the subject or y as the subject. For convenience in this case, I'll just make x the subject because I noticed that y is a negative number. Right, so I should begin with equation 2. So from equation 2, I'm going to make x the subject. Right, so from equation 2, if I want to keep x, that means I'll probably need to shift y over to the other side, and that will be x is equals to, I have originally 2 on the right hand side, and this is minus y, subtracting y. The reverse of subtracting y, it become plus y. So now I know that x is equals to 2 plus y. What does this mean? This means that whenever I see the whole thing, x itself, I will replace it totally by the expression 2 plus y. Now this equation over here, this x equals to something over here came from equation 2. So if you plug it back into equation 2, you're not going to get any solution. So hence we're going to substitute it into equation 1. So substituting x equals to 2 plus y into equation 1. What happens? We will get 3 times x plus 2y equals to 1. And whatever that x appears now, whenever I see x, I will replace it by the expression 2 plus y. Okay, so that's how we've done the first step. Next step, we will try to expand our brackets. We notice that this is 3 times all of this. So we will get our answer 6 plus 3y plus 2y equals to 1. And in this case, you'll realize that my equation now only have all the variable, only one unknown, y, and x, the unknown for x, has disappeared because it has been changed to y already, and hence I can proceed to solve my equation. So gathering this together, this will be 3y plus 2y is 5y, and this is 1. If I bring 6 over to the other side, this is positive 6. I'm subtracting 6, so 1 minus 6 will give me -5. So from here to here, I'm subtracting 6. Alright, and in this case, make y the subject. I'll get y divided by 5, that will be -1. Okay, so I've solved my answer for the y value. But that's not enough because inside this equation, these two equations itself, there are 2 unknowns. One is x, the other one is y. So what we're going to do is we are going to do another substitution. Sub y equals to the number -1 into any of our equations. But preferably, I already made x my subject, so I shall use this equation over here. Right? Equation number 2. So that would be x is equals to 2 plus the value of y. Now the value of y is -1. So I'll plug in the number y to be -1. So 2 minus 1 will be 1. Last but not least, present your answers. Therefore, x equals to 1, y equals to -1. Have you gotten the basic concept? If yes, let's move on to the next example, which is a little bit slightly more difficult and it may involve fractions. Now let's take a look at example 2. If you notice inside this equation over here, these two pair of equations, equation 1 and equation number 2, both the coefficients of x and y are more than 1. So in this case, if you were to make x the subject or y the subject, we will have to involve fractions. But how do we deal with fractions in general? Don't worry too much. We must use our calculator to help us. Right? So now in this case, since it does not matter which equation to use, it will still get fractions anyway. I'll just choose from equation 1 and I'll choose to make x the subject. So from equation 1, I'm going to make x the subject. Okay, so I know that this one is 6x minus 4y plus 25 to be equals to 0. What I'm going to do, I'm going to keep 6x. I'm going to shift everything over to the right hand side, everything else. So this is negative 4y, subtract 4y, it should become add 4y, so it will be positive 4y. This is plus 25, so bring over will be minus 25. You'll do the reverse operation. And from here, we'll need to get rid of the coefficient 6 itself. So we need to divide by 6. Now, in general, students like to write the whole thing, the whole fraction over 6 itself, right? But you'll notice that it will be a little bit harder for us to manipulate because it stays as a fraction, one whole fraction. So instead of doing that, in my case, I will advise students to divide it separately. So this will be 4 over 6y. And this will be 25 over 6. Then you notice that actually 4 over 6, right? I can use my calculator lah. So I can simplify a little bit. Then it become 2 over 3 of a y. 25 divided 6. Okay, cannot be simplified. So still 25 over 6. So now I have x as my subject. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to substitute the whole of this. That means now x is, if I see x, I have to replace it with this whole fraction thing over here. And it may look a little bit complicated. Okay, but the steps are still much more or less the same. So don't panic, right? So we're going to substitute this sub x into, now x, this subject itself came from equation 1, so therefore I'm going to substitute into equation 2 so as to get the answer. So equation 2 says 6y minus 2 times x minus 41 is equals to 0. Okay, and I'm going to replace it by the whole expression over here. Alright. Okay, so this one will be 2 over 3y minus 25 over 6. Then you'll be thinking like, how do we actually multiply, right? No, don't worry, just take it as a fraction. Use your calculator wisely and just multiply it in properly. Alright, so this is still 6y. Now what is this? This is negative 2 times 2 over 3. So using my calculator, and remember for fractions, for algebra, right, we will prefer improper fractions. So I'll keep it as negative 4 over 3y. Okay, and next one, I know that this is negative 2 times negative 25 over 6. So I'm going to use my calculator wisely. You need to do it slowly. Take note of the sign as well. It becomes a positive 25 over 3. And there's still a negative 41 here. Right? So I have successfully changed the whole equation such that there's only one variable involving y. Right? Now let's try to do a little bit of simplification. So 6 minus 4 over 3. 6y minus 4 over 3y. So what is 6 minus 4 over 3? Let's use your calculator wisely. 6 minus 4 over 3. That gives me the number 14 over 3y. Okay, it's just a number. Don't fret not. Okay, don't worry too much about it. Right? Then the next one is a fraction. That will be 25 over 3 minus 41. Oh, a rather big number. Minus 41. And that gives me an improper fraction, negative 98 over 3. To be equals to 0. Next, we want to make y our subject. So I'll keep 14 over 3y here. I'm going to shift negative 98 over 3 to the other side. So this is subtraction. We'll undo it by doing addition. So 98 over 3 over the side. Then how do we get y? How do I remove the number 14 over 3? I'm going to divide by 14 over 3. So leave the calculations, the numbers, to your calculator. 98 over 3 divide by 14 over 3. And that gives me the number y is 7. Okay? So do use your calculator to help you for your calculations. So if y equals to 7 now, we're going to substitute again. We want to find value for x. Y equals to 7 into, we used equation 1 just now, right? So we have x to be equals to 2 over 3 times y minus 25 over 6. So y is now the number 7. And I'll leave these calculations to my calculator. 2 over 3 times 7 minus 25 over 6. And x will be equals to half. Last but not least, present your answers. And y equals to 7. Okay, now let's recall a little bit. The methods over here are much or more or less similar, just that you notice for equations that look like these, where the coefficient of x or coefficient of y are not 1, then you notice that, oh, it may involve some kind of fractions. The steps are the same, just that we need to be extra careful with our calculation involving fractions. Alright, hope you have gotten the concept. Now we shall work out more questions to do the practice. See you for the next lesson. Goodbye.